at exactly 6 p.m. Can you please do the honors of doing the Pledge of Allegiance?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you please take roll call?
Okay, Vice Chairperson Cohens,
Present?
Commissioner Houston,
Present.
Commissioner Nelman,
Present.
and Commissioners Swomey and Talita are not here at the moment.
Okay, I guess,
Now, the next section on the agenda is the selection of the new chair and vice chair. In the past, we've often delayed this decision until we had a full panel. That's up to you guys.
I'm going to go ahead and do it today.
Okay, we'll
Just get it over with because we haven't had a meeting of the minds yet. So yes, we're going to continue with selecting the chair and the vice chair today.
I'm sorry, we're gonna,
We are going to proceed with doing the chair, selections of the chair and vice chair.
okay.
Okay. All right.
So all we need is a nomination and someone to second it, and then we'll vote.
Okay. Can we have can we brief within amongst each other first? And then we'll do the motion? Is that all right?
As long as you do it in public, or limit yourself to 2 people, Brown Act stuff. I mean,
Do what?
You can talk amongst yourselves.
Out in public. We
In
can't
public.
like sidebar.
You can't go to like sidebar with.
Oh, no, we're going to do it right here in public. Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Transparency. Okay, do you guys have, my thing is well, as we said, they're not there, but I want to proceed with this. We've already delayed it already twice, so we're just going to go with what we have.
I'm fine with
Are you
that.
guys with that? And then we just continue on?
Yep.
Okay, all right, now we can proceed.
For the vote on that, is it a simple majority of the 3 that are present in order to elect the new chairperson and so forth? Or do we have to have a quorum of, do we have to have 3 to have a quorum of the full commission?
Most land use decisions require a quorum of or require 3 to be an affirmative vote, but since this is just an organizational vote, we'll just take the majority.
Okay, so as default, am I able to take the chair from my understanding?
Somebody nominates you.
I
or you.
nominate Commissioner Cohens for chair.
Second?
Okay,
Okay,
Congratulations.
all right, let's see, we're gonna go with Commissioner Houston. This is just a roll call vote, just say yes.
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Nelman
Yes.
and soon-to-be Chairperson Cohens.
yes,
Okay.
thank you, guys.
All right, you're the chairperson now, so you can run
Okay.
the rest of the meeting.
All right, we're going to be selecting the vice chair.
Okay.
I actually nominate Commissioner Houston for the vice chair.
Second?
Okay, give me a second here. Let's see. Okay, Chairperson Cohens
Yes.
and Commissioner Nelman
Yes.
and Commissioner Houston,
Yep.
soon-to-be vice chairperson.
Look at that.
All right.
Congratulations.
As of now, you are. Okay.
All right.
Okay, now we move on to oral communications.
This is the time for the public to address the Planning Commission on items not on the public hearing portion of the agenda. After obtaining permission to proceed by the presiding officer, we request that speakers should first state their full name and address for the record, although this is not required. The speaker shall limit their address to 3 minutes. Any public comments that are discriminatory, defamatory, or otherwise not protected speech will not be considered, consented to, or otherwise adopted by the Planning Commission in its deliberations and findings. As a courtesy to others, please silence cell phones and other electronic devices. The Planning Commission strives to treat all participants with civility, and we ask that you do the same. Again, please keep remarks to 3 minutes.
Brief question. I'm here to comment in regards of the parking. Will you have an oral communication after the presentation?
No, this is the time to do that.
This will be the time to do that? Okay. I'll start. Well, hello. Good evening. Happy New Year's. Haven't seen some of you since last year. Name is Ruben Sanchez. I'm here with the North Alton Community Association. As you all know, the parking situation in our area is a big concern in our area. I know they did a presentation not that long ago at the council, and and I did speak on it. And because I don't know if some of you seen it or understand what's going on, a lot of the favoritism was basically based on developers. There was really none for the residents. That's what we caught. We've seen that a lot of it is basically opening up more parking for developers, making sure they're comfortable with it, yet we're gonna be the ones carrying the burdens when the parking, we can't get parking for our family members. Like right now, I was telling Lolly, I walked over here because 98% of the chance I'm not gonna get a parking back on the street. That means that either I have to park somewhere else far away from home, risk my safety, risk the safety of my vehicle as well. Some of you understand that, yeah, we're trying to focus and saying, well, this has happened everywhere. But no, there is proven cities that they've managed to control parking. That's the reason that I'm here, because I haven't heard from anyone expressing that, saying, "Hey, we got Claremont. They have a way what they're doing with their parking and doing very well." There's other cities throughout California that are doing very well. Same rules, same governor, same everything, but yet they're doing very well. Every time when they're talking about Hawthorne, they're always speaking of the more of the poverty-ridden areas, condensed, high population, where like a lot of what do you call apartments everywhere. We're still not there. I understand that this is probably moving forward because my hunch, I've been living here long enough, I'm beginning to think that they understand that the what's it called, Indigo, right here on Gravilla, that's going to cause some parking issues. Because right now in Gravilla, this area, people will be like, nah, we don't have no issues with the parking, but they will soon. People in Holly Glen, I've heard it from them. I know they're talking about because of the stadium popping up, they're going to have some parking issues. That's why we need to address it. At least for North Hawthorne, the way it best benefits for North Hawthorne is the preferential parking. There's no other way. Because if they're going to start doing these, tow things or meter parking on, where do you think they're going to be parking the vehicles? They're going to go to the residential areas. And yet we haven't fixed that issue. We have to make sure that the residents have parking and for their safety and for their property value as well. This is an issue that needs to be addressed correctly. And the way to address it is by talking about preferential parking, no overnight parking. I know I spoke to a friend of mine, Ramona Track, Kathleen Harris. Hey, Kathleen, where we are. She brought up a very touchy subject in regards of like the parking with Truro. I don't know if you guys heard of that. It's kind of like a Airbnb for cars. So they're using, a lot of these apartment dwellers are using our parking as a storage for their vehicles to rent out. So now, as a homeowner, you might have 1 or 2 vehicles, but these apartment dwellers have 8 or 10 vehicles that they rent out for business. So we need to keep track of these individuals, and the only way to do it is with preferential parking, no overnight parking, making sure that they're not using it for commercial usage. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me some more time.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Anybody else wish to speak?
Members of the Planning Commission, my name is Lorelia Walker. I live in Hawthorne. I'm speaking on the agenda item G3, the consent calendar and approval of minor modifications. And I was just wondering why this is not something that is subject to a public hearing. I think there's a hotel over in the hospitality corridor, they call it, and we've had a problem with this applicant before, asking for what were called minor modifications, and in fact involved taking.
I'm sorry to interrupt just really quickly. This is an item that we're going to be discussing, correct?
No, this is not necessarily a public hearing. It's on the consent calendar. You can pull it off the consent calendar, and then we can have a hearing, but a public hearing on this item would have to be scheduled for the next one. But
Okay.
you can certainly pull it off and discuss it today. But this is the appropriate time for her to be speaking on this.
Okay, just wanted a clarification on that. Continue, please. I'm so sorry, Ms. Walker.
Right, that's
We'll make sure
okay.
your
No,
time
that's
is
why, and that
allotted.
I get was my concern that it wasn't on the public hearing portion. That I don't have any idea how minor this so-called modification is, and I thought the public ought to have the opportunity to speak to it, because the last time even though it was ultimately declared a minor modification. It involved combining 2 hotels, adding a 2nd floor, and it had to be appealed to the city council, who decided it was minor. I really think we ought to have the opportunity to see how minor this modification is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Anybody else wish to speak? Let me see here. Okay, seeing nobody else, I will close oral communications. Okay, we have a couple of presentations. Citywide parking study.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is DJ Torado. I'm with the Department of Public Works. And I also have Laura Forenash with me from Kimley Horn and Associates, and we're here to discuss the citywide parking study update. So just to note that this citywide parking study is for any public streets or any lots that are owned by the city of Hawthorne and not necessarily for any private parking. So why is this study needed? Hawthorne is experiencing growing demand for on-street parking. Obviously, you've heard from residents that parking is an issue in the city, and it's something that we are attempting to address with this parking study. In the commercial corridors, there's been low turnover of cars parking on the street. Usually they'll park for more than 2 hours, which is past the amount of time they're allowed to park there. And also, employees are dominating some of the parking. They tend to also go into the residential areas and not park in the proper locations. For residential neighborhoods, there's congestion from population growth and also multi-generational households. A lot of people own a car, so when you have 4 to 5 people living in the same household, there's 4 to 5 cars, they're all parking on the street. Exacerbating this issue are policy and regulatory context state laws that have reduced parking supply. One of this is AB 413, which is daylighting crosswalks, which means as of now, you are not allowed to park within 20 feet of any marked or unmarked crosswalk. And this is for pedestrian safety because any car that's parked near an intersection, usually you're not able to see pedestrians when they're trying to step off of the curb and cross onto the crosswalk. Other issues that the state has is SB 9, which has increased housing density, and also AB 2097, which has reduced off-street parking requirements. So with the reduction of off-street parking requirements, that means people are parking on public streets. So the goals and objectives of this parking study is to do an inventory on all on-street and city-owned off-street parking facilities, develop regulations to parking, which includes looking at the time limits, the permitting zones, and meter rates, analyzing the utilization of parked cars, so how long and when are they parking on the street, improve availability in high-demand commercial areas, and also identify new off-street parking facilities. To do this study, we've done this in 3 phases. I'll be describing them in detail. The first is the pilot program. The second is the residential preferential parking program. And the third is focusing on commercial corridors. So for the pilot program, why are we doing a pilot program? This is to test parking management tools. So that includes metered parking, evaluating enforcement and technology with managing parking, and also informing a long-term parking strategy. So right now, the city doesn't necessarily have a strategy, so we're using the study to develop something that'll assist residents and visitors long-term. So as part of this parking pilot program, we have identified locations where we will be installing paid parking stations. So these locations are on Hawthorne Boulevard from El Segundo Boulevard to Rosecrans Avenue, Jack Northrop Avenue from Crenshaw Boulevard to Prairie Avenue, the 129th and 130th lots that is west of Hawthorne Boulevard, Jim Thorpe Park, but only the southeast corner that's located on 139th and Prairie. And in total, that is over 1,000 parking spaces. So as part of this pilot program, we've identified these locations. So depending on the location, they'll have hourly, daily, or monthly rates. For Hawthorne Boulevard, the curbside parking, that is prime real estate. A lot of people tend to park there long term. So we're going to be establishing an hourly rate to increase turnover. So you're only allowed to park there for maybe 1 to 2 hours and then leave that parking so that it'll be open and available to visitors. For Hawthorne Boulevard and the median, we're developing fees where the first hour or so is free for visitors, and then afterwards it'll be a slightly higher hourly rate. So the first hour is free if you want to go like eat somewhere on Hawthorne Boulevard, and then if you're staying there any longer, there'll be a slight fee. And that's again more longer term parking, but also to encourage some turnover as well. But also with the median, we want to establish a monthly parking pass, especially for employees, because they're not parking in the correct locations. They're mostly parking on the curbside. So we want to encourage them to park into the median. By having this parking pass, they'll be guaranteed parking, and they don't have to go into residential areas. On Jack Northrop Avenue, it'll be daily, hourly, and monthly parking. Same with 129th and 130th, and also the corner location on Jim Thorpe Park. So the city selected Laz Parking to provide these on-street pay stations and also the digital residential parking permits, as I'll describe later on. The deployment schedule, at least for the pay stations, is 90 days total from January to April. And then afterwards, once that has been implemented, we'll be moving on to phase 2, which is the residential preferential parking. So for this program, the current direction was from City Council in around 2018 that we cannot expand any new permit parking districts. So before that, usually residents would have to sign a petition, usually around 65% of the residents on that block if they want preferential parking. But as of 2018, the council has directed city staff not to accept any more of new permit districts. Any existing permit districts, you're allowed to have a parking permit sticker, but you're only limited to 3 per household, and it's only a one-time fee of $10. So because that's been an issue, we're going to be updating this program. So we're going to be establishing permit eligibility requirements, allowing a guest permit parking permits policy, and also establishing policies to encourage people to use their driveways or their garages to park rather than using the street. With this fee structure, we're going to be establishing an annual fee for residential permit parking. Right now, as I said, it's only a one-time $10 fee, and that's it for the lifetime of whether you're in Hawthorne for the rest of your life or whether you get a new car. So right now, it's only one-time $10. We're going to be restructuring that to an annual fee. And then the more vehicles you own and you park on the street, there's going to be an escalating fee structure with that. So one car, for example, may be $50 per year, but if you have 2 cars, that might be $100, and so on and so forth. So the idea is, we're encouraging people to use their existing driveways and garages. That's not going to be any charge, but if you're going to be parking in the street and you have multiple vehicles, you're going to be charged a certain rate. And then finally, for the commercial corridors, we've collected data on all these corridors. These corridors are typically Inglewood Avenue, El Segundo Boulevard, Rosecrans Avenue, et cetera. And we've identified areas where there's 85% occupancy to target high demand locations. So this means 85% or more of the available parking spaces are usually taken, and there's not a lot of turnover for these vehicles. So we're analyzing paid parking options to encourage more turnover to make sure that people aren't just parking in the same spot for the entire time. As part of this citywide parking program, we've been doing a lot of public engagement. We've hosted virtual focus groups with residents in November. We were at the Touch a Truck event and at the Winter Wonderland holiday events. And then we have an interactive map and online survey where residents can put down a pin on the map and express their concerns about what issues they've been having with parking, both in residential and commercial areas. And so what we've noticed from the public engagement, in terms of residential issues, there's severe shortages due to multi-cars. So any household that has 2 or more vehicles, they've been experiencing issues with parking, and also multifamily developments. There's long-term on-street parking with underutilized driveways and garages. There's inconsistent and sometimes limited enforcement in these areas. And we've also asked about people's opinions about permit parking. There's obviously a mixed reaction. Sometimes it exacerbates the existing parking issues, but in other locations, a lot of people are in favor in order to prevent non-residential parking. Some retail issues we've heard, there's spillover from nearby retail areas. Again, employees are parking on residential streets instead of the main commercial areas. And there's also some concerns about parking blocking visibility when entering or exiting parking. And then visitor issues is the lack of visitor parking in residential areas. So visitors don't have a location of where to park. And then additional public engagement that we're doing, we're going to be putting advertisements on bus shelters on Hawthorne Boulevard to get people to take our survey and ask their opinions about the parking study and about their parking concerns. We have a city monthly newsletter that we're going to be putting out information there. We met with the Chamber of Commerce actually yesterday to get their opinion about parking in commercial areas and the issues that businesses have with parking. And we're going to be presenting at different HOAs, city commissions like this one, and also with Kiwanis. And then we're going to be hosting another focus group meeting with residents. And then finally, the next steps for this parking study, we're going to be updating the municipal code for city council approval. We're going to be adopting that pilot program ordinance. We're going to be finalizing the fee schedule for both commercial and residential locations once the residential parking permit is up. And then we're also going to be presenting our final report on the parking study. Thank you for your time, commissioners. And
Thank
I can
you.
take any questions.
For the pilot, will there also be an inclusion of additional personnel to help with enforcement of this? Because you said that it wasn't always being enforced, so well, I don't know who enforced it for the city. Is it HPD?
Currently at this time, it is HPD. As I mentioned, we hired Laz Parking to assist with that, so they're going to be providing additional staff for enforcement for parking at both commercial and residential locations once this program is up to date.
And will the public be able to call, like Ruben was saying, for his neighborhood, if they have issues with cars that are parked and they've been there for a long time, they don't have a permit or something, will they be able to call Raz Parking or whatever? Is the city doing the enforcement in those areas?
So Laz Parking will be doing the enforcement. Hawthorne Police will still be doing any towing. That's going to stay with the PD. So, for example, if they need a car towed, they would be contacting Hawthorne PD for that. But in terms of like if a resident doesn't have the proper permit or have no permit, then they will be ticketed by Laz Parking enforcement.
And there'll be signs in the community to say who to call for those things?
Correct. Yes, that'll be clear between who you can call depending on what kind of violation it is.
And then just to be clear, we were talking about incentivizing people to park in their driveways and use pre-existing spaces, but it's just that you get a certain amount of permits, and if it's one car, it's 50, if it's 2 cars, it's more money charging them if they want to park on the street and not use their parking spots?
It's more money the more cars you want to park on the street. So let's say I have 3 cars. I want to park all 3 cars on the street. So the first car, I'll probably say $50 annually. The second car will be $100 annually. The third car will be $150 annually. If you don't want to, those are just example numbers. We
Sure.
haven't run the exact numbers. But if you don't want to pay for any of that, then that would encourage you to use your driveway or garage because that's free. We're not charging for that.
Will the permits be tied to specific license plates?
Correct.
One question for me is, what if their garage is literally facing the street? Curbside? How is that handled? Like, they don't have like, they don't have the spaces right there. They only have the garage, and that's it. That's literally on the curb. How do you handle that? Isn't it more expensive for, say, someone wants to park in the street and you have like 3 people? Well, I guess they're forced to pay.
If they
Correct.
want to park on the street, that is permitted, yes.
So you guys have a method as well as determining, well, who's the owner and the renter there?
Correct.
You guys do some type of verification?
Correct.
How
yes.
is that though? I mean, is that already done or?
So you're usually how we do it is your car registration and your license are have your Hawthorne address, right? So that's how we verify whether you're a Hawthorne resident of this permitted street. So that's how we'll verify. Okay, if you need permitted parking, then we'll when you sign up for the residential permit, you have to show us a copy of your driver's license and any like utility bills, anything like that, to verify your information, and that allows to determine whether you're allowed to park on that street.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
The next question is, auto companies. They like to park in the streets in public area. How's that going to be handled, out of curiosity?
Auto body shops? you
Auto
mean?
body shops, yeah.
Yeah. So if that street is permitted, they will no longer be allowed to park there. They got to pay for the fees. Or since they're not residents, they're not going to be allowed to park on the street if that street is permitted. So they're going to have to use their private property properly, which is to store their vehicles there rather than using
Okay.
public streets as parking.
Okay, so that's actually a pro.
Yes. So this permitted program, it's for residents and not for, at least for the residential neighborhoods, that's specifically for residents. So if it's an auto body shop in a residential area, you have to prove you're a resident on that street. If you're an auto body shop, you don't live in Hawthorne. Your cars
Okay.
are not from Hawthorne, most likely. So they would have to use their own parking.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
You done? So what's the plan for guests? So for example, I'm having a birthday party and I'm on a permitted street. Can I apply for 10 temporary passes for that day for a party, or I'm having the babysitters coming over, do they get 2 hours free? Like, how is it going to work because, people just don't have people coming to their houses that are there. People come visit that need to park.
Yeah, so we're still looking into that. The idea is you'd have to go online, apply for like a temporary permit for probably, let's say, 4 hours or something, or whatever, maybe
Sure.
like a certain amount
Like
of
a day
time.
pass.
Yeah, like a day pass kind of thing. That'll be temporary. That'll be tied to your license plate for that day. If you overstay, then you get ticketed.
But will there be a program for like an hour? I'm having a dinner party and you know what I mean? Like, is there
Yeah.
a leeway period and then you can go into a permit, or is it just permits?
That's something we still have to look into more. That's a good idea for us to look into, whether it be like a short-term thing or maybe like a day pass. That's something we have to take into consideration for any guests or visitors.
Yeah, great.
Will the number of permits in the residential area be capped based on the space available on the street? Or will it just be however many houses want to buy the permits, they can have the permits?
That's something we're looking into, but typically, I mean, we're going to assume at this time that if you have like 4 cars, I don't think you want to pay for 4 cars to park on the street. So we're structuring the fees in such a way to disincentivize parking on the street. So that's a balance that we're taking. Should we limit it to just maybe 4 cars maximum, or should we just say, okay, well, 1 through 4 is this amount, and then 5+ is like, I don't know, another higher amount.
I'm just thinking, because some of the streets, it's like where the driveways start and end.
I'm so
between it.
sorry.
You
I
can't-
can barely hear you. Is there
Oh,
any way?
sorry.
You can pull it towards you.
Sure.
This will be easier. There we go.
So the reason I'm asking is because some of the streets, they have like where the driveways start and end for each house. There's not enough space to actually park a car between those driveways. So some streets you'll have more available street parking than others. So that my question is more for the streets. Are you making the number of permits available for a street based on the actual space that's available for parking? Or is it just saying if people want to pay it, they can have a permit?
That is something we still have to look into more with this study. That's a good thing you brought up, because some residential areas, I think you're only allowed to park on one side because the width of the street is very narrow. So we have to balance that between if there's less available street parking, we'll probably have to limit the amount of permits you're allowed to buy for that entire block. as opposed to a wider street with parking on both sides.
Thank you.
May I,
Go ahead.
may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Are we going to have a one-size-fits-all plan, or are we going to have different plans for different neighborhoods based on the needs of each neighborhood?
There can't be a one-size-fits-all solution. At this time, our one-size-fits-all thing is the $10 one-time fee for residential parking, and that's not been working out. And so we're analyzing different neighborhoods. So let's say Monita Gardens has a lot of apartments. They have their own needs versus someone in North Hawthorne. They probably have less apartments. So we need to cater and tailor our study and our results to each individual neighborhood.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I would just, and this is just a suggestion, because I lived in West Hollywood where parking is a nightmare. And what they did up there was, considering that we had parking and we had 2 cars, we were only able to get 1 pass because we had a place. Even though I could park both cars, I had to park at least 1 in my driveway. So again, it's just something to consider, because people that can afford it will buy all the passes, and then the people, not poor people in that sense, the people that can't do it, it's going to affect them. And again, that's not an equitable solution, because
Understood.
socioeconomics are very different for very different families. So I'd like just to keep that in mind for
Understood.
our residents.
And I have to concur with her with that. That was my concern. Are there going to be waivers or something, someone who can't afford it? You know, just, I don't know if that needs to be put in a comment or something, but that's something we need to worry about that part.
Yeah, so potentially offering like if you low income program. So if you're making under a certain amount, then you get like a discounted rate, quote unquote, something like that. Maybe for the first car, something to that we're looking into. So we're trying to be equitable and fair to all residents, even though it's not necessarily a one size fits all solution.
Okay, compact versus SUV size on the ground. How is that? Is there going to be, like, I like driving trucks all the time, so big truck. How does that look? Is it going to be more compact than a bigger space? I know compact brings more money because it's a smaller space, but what about, do you guys have a ratio with that?
We don't. So currently we have the I don't know if you're familiar with the parking markings program, where we've been delineating these spaces. Unfortunately, because Hawthorne has been built out, a lot of the driveways are narrow and a lot of the streets are narrow, and a lot of the area is pretty narrow overall. So it wasn't built out for large SUVs or trucks. So, you know, at the time, vehicles were a lot smaller and skinnier. So now that everything is built out, we have all these large trucks. So we have to balance between compact and larger vehicles. But we might recommend people, if you have a larger vehicle, use your own driveway or garage if possible, to allow for more compact cars to park on the street, which means more availability for parking.
So there's not going to be any bigger sizes than compact, is what you're saying?
It depends on the location.
Are you
Okay.
asking, are the permits going to be more expensive for SUVs than they are for compact cars?
Well, no, I was just going to say if there's availability that's going to be on the street, so you can
Got it.
park a larger vehicle if necessary.
Got it.
And the reason why I'm saying that, just because I like big trucks, I don't have a disability or anything, but how is that going to be handled if I need a bigger vehicle and somebody has a disability? How is that going to be handled? Where are they going to park?
Usually, well, at least for disabilities, they're usually exempt from permits. If you have the handicap placard, usually you're exempt from that.
Yes, but if they need a bigger vehicle, like a van, because they have a disability, someone in a wheelchair needs to be, put in those vans, how is it handled if the space is not available?
That's a good question, and something we'd have to look into.
Yeah,
That's something
that's very important because we want to make sure it has to be fair.
absolutely.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. Question is on trash cans in the street. We have spaces. How is that handled? Because I see early morning, taking the kids to school, we see the Republic taking up a whole, putting their trash cans, or for the businesses, they have these big old trash cans and they put in that first lane. So everybody happens to be moving. But my question is that if you have the spaces there allocated, does that mean that the trash cans, those big old bulk trash cans that are out there, How's that going to be handled if, say, I roll it out and I see a space and that big old trash can is literally in one of the spaces of where a vehicle can be placed? How is that going to be handled? Because
not-
that's on Hawthorne. I'm sorry, that's in Imperial in Hawthorne, a lot of main streets. How's it handled?
At this time, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay. And on Prairie, just to let you know, intersection would be Prairie and Rosecrans area.
So you said Prairie and
Rosecrans going up,
Rosecrans,
And then
you
going
also,
up towards 120th, that main street, there's a lot of big old bulk trash cans.
Understood.
And
yeah.
they take most of the lane. I would like also to also consider something that I think will work, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I noticed the time limits. I believe it's 8 o'clock that people can still park on the street.
On
And it mostly
On
takes
which
8
street,
a.m.
sorry?
8, I'm sorry. Say it's 8 o'clock in the morning.
okay.
And I'm talking about traffic flow now.
Okay.
Although we're talking about parking, but it's
Right.
kind of
Correct.
if there are cars parked before 8 o'clock, we're only limited to 2 spaces, lanes for traffic.
Correct.
What happens is I think there will be a better flow if people have accessibility to that right first lane when taking the kids to school. I would encourage or recommend if maybe the time is around 8 o'clock around schools or a distance from the schools, you get better flow of traffic if you may say you can park at 8:30 a.m. instead of 8 o'clock, since most of the schools, or at least the middle schools, start around 8:30. I think it'll help with traffic. So you can, so people don't have a problem, and then, with the traffic flow early in
So-
the mornings and also during between 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, so as I understand it, right now in certain locations, in certain streets, you're not allowed to park during peak hours, which is I think 6 to 8 a.m. and 2 to 4 p.m. That might not be correct, but you're suggesting either extending that time or adjusting that time so
Yes.
that it accommodates parents who are dropping off their kids at school.
Yes.
Okay.
About
Yeah.
2 years ago, the law changed for when schools have to start requiring for like high schools that they have to start after 8:30. So if those are like legacy times from the past where we started our school at like 8 o'clock, now it's all the parents are trying to drop off between 8 and 8:30. So if there's parking and one car parked there, it could just throw a monkey wrench into everything.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. And also now, if we can you go back to the locations? I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. Now, the ones that are colored, I see Holly Park, Moneta Gardens.
Oh, sorry. Those are just different colors of the neighborhoods, not necessarily where the
I think
Parking's gonna be-
parking is. Yes.
you had the other one that had some,
It's the same base map, and
Okay.
it may not, the districts may be much smaller, because, sometimes, like the north part of Medina Gardens may have completely different issues from the southern part of, so this is just what we call the neighborhoods. That's all it represents.
Yeah, so this is the different colors are not representing the parking districts. We haven't made that determination as to how many streets go in one district or another. This is just differentiating between the different neighborhoods in Hawthorne.
Okay. Can you go back to that other map then? The location part? I can see it better like that. Okay, so when you say locations, one says Hawthorne Boulevard, Jack Northrop, 129th. Those aren't the only ones you're saying. You're going to say you're going to do the whole city, correct?
So this is phase one as part of the pilot program. These are all commercial locations. But for residential, we haven't determined specifically which locations in each neighborhood are going to be permitted.
Okay. Like for Holly Park, for instance, there's a park there. Would you guys be doing, or we have several parks. Are you guys going to do anything about doing the same thing as a cost to park at the park, or is that just going to be like free to park at a park?
Ideally, it would be free to park in a park. The only reason why we have paid parking at Jim Thorpe is mainly for SpaceX. They primarily use that area. But all park locations right now are free. So Depending on how the pilot program goes and how we see the behavior of residents and visitors, we can expand on that. But as of right now, we're not thinking about charging for parking at any of the parks. Those will be free.
Okay. Now, the charging stations. And this is something that I'm seeing a little bit and something that we have to actually look at it. I've noticed that the charging stations are going up. No problem, I'm with that, you know. The problem I'm having is that the charging stations, those big old boxes that are just being thrown anywhere, you have all those, what are those boxes called next to the charging stations to give it energy?
Oh, the control panel?
Yeah, I guess
Or-
the control panel, but they're really big and they're not that attractive. We have to make sure that we put something in place, at least the planning department put something in place, so it doesn't look like a bunch of boxes just thrown everywhere and then we have charging stations and then it's like, it's not pretty. Because you can just imagine right now there's not a lot of them. But for instance, on 120th Street next to the Target area, there's all these boxes just everywhere. And I was just like, did they think about where they're going to put these boxes? Maybe they could put some greenery on the end, so visually, that's all they see is greenery instead of all these boxes.
I see.
You get what I'm saying? The big
Yeah.
old, and you know, the green, orange, white, and then after that, they start using it as a graffiti, putting graffiti all over it.
I
and
think you're
it's-
talking about charging stations on private property. We can look at that,
Yes.
but we are getting pretty far off topic here.
Well, yeah, but I'm just want to make sure we're
No, I
ahead of it
understand,
because
but-
I'm looking at 10 or
But
20.
we're not following our agenda.
Well, no, I'm talking about the parking spaces in general.
Well,
That if they're,
parking on the street is the thing we're focusing on here.
Correct.
And so parking station, or charging stations in the street are controlled by the city.
Correct.
So that's with them. So I'm sure that they've got plans to make them not look ugly. But you're probably talking about people that are installing charging stations on private property next to the sidewalk or something. That's something that we have to look at. We don't have a regulation right now on it, but we will.
okay. But no, but I'm thinking about the future when everybody starts parking and stuff like that in the streets, there's charging stations. Well, I've seen it because I travel the
Well,
world,
again,
but
charging
like I said-
stations in the street will be, controlled by the city. Private people can't put charging stations in the street.
Well, no, I know that. But what I'm saying is that kind of put it as a topic for later when you guys start looking at that to make sure that aesthetically, we know that we're going to have to look at it. That's what I'm actually saying.
Okay.
Okay. And let me see here, just one second. Extra cars, Holly Glen. Okay, let me see here. I guess, are we done with the presentation?
Yes. Are there any
Okay.
more questions?
I don't have any more questions.
Nope, I'm good.
Any more
Thank you
questions?
very much.
Thank you for your time.
Great job.
Thank you. Okay, the next presentation is going to be pro-housing designation.
Our consultant, Mr. Jack Wong, is going to give the presentation. It's not a visual presentation, so you have to pay attention.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable members of the Planning Commission, staff of the city. I'm Jack Wong. I'm here to present on the pro-housing application to the state of California. Basically, I'm sorry there's not a PowerPoint presentation for you to take a look at. I don't have any colorful pictures, but in essence, the pro-housing designation, it's a creation from HCD back in 2021 to incentivize housing production throughout California. And the way they're doing this is by way of providing this special designation, it's just called pro-housing designation, to cities that attain that designation. And to attain that designation, the cities have to demonstrate their willingness to provide housing to the community and to incentivize and to promote the development of that housing. There are policies that are enacted by the city that would encourage that development, some of which are already in place, which are already codified in your code, as well as policies that could be proposed, that could be enacted within 2 years of the application. What we've done is we've looked at all the current codes that pertain to housing production in the city and talked with the staff about what's possibly as proposed or anticipated in the next couple of years. And it's exciting to say that the application scored very well. It's a self-scoring, but you have to score at least 30 points across 4 different categories. You know, like favorable land use and zoning, incentives for housing production, financial incentives, or reduction of development costs for housing production. And looking at these different categories, the city scored very well. We have about 54 points. A minimum of 30 is required. So of the 54, in conversation with HCD staff, they feel that we're standing pretty solid. Even if after reviewing the application at the state level, there's comments for, let's say, possible reductions, they don't anticipate there being too much of a loss. So all in all, we should end up with a very good application for this designation. So the reason why cities wish to have this designation is it provides additional scoring points for the city when they apply for any state grants, not federal grants, but state grants that involve, in furtherance of housing, whether it's market rate or affordable, mixed-use projects, public infrastructure in support of housing development, such as sidewalks, sewers, water lines. So it goes far beyond just the actual shelter aspect of housing. It goes into things that support housing, such as the infrastructure I mentioned, but also parks, and if they're in relationship to a housing project. So by having this designation, the cities would gain extra scoring points or brownie points. And these are allocated by the different agencies for which you're applying for. Let's say you go in for an urban infill grant next year. The agency involved that's tasked with that grant will then assign certain, let's say, special points to your application for that based upon your application on this pro-housing. Now, the higher your score in your pro-housing, it makes you that much more competitive with other cities that are designated with this special designation. The good news is, even though it started in 21, and there's not that many cities in the state that have this designation. I just checked before I came. It's currently at around 60 cities throughout the state. But because this grant is allocated on a geographic basis, there's 6 different geographical areas. Hawthorne is in the Southern California area, which is basically the SCAG region. So within the SCAG region, there is approximately 11 or 12 cities that hold this designation. And that would involve cities and counties, City of Los Angeles, County of LA, for example, Long Beach. The latest one that received this designation was West Hollywood in the last round. So by having these special points, you not only have access to special bonus points, you're also eligible on an annual basis to apply for a special grant, which is only open to cities having this designation. So for example, within Southern California, there's currently approximately, say, 12 jurisdictions, counties and cities that can apply. But the way the rules are written, if you have already received this it's a special grant called the PIP, Pro Housing Incentive Grant. This is something that's only for pro-housing cities to apply. So if a city has already received this special grant, they are not allowed to apply for that special grant in the next round. So that it evens up the odds then and actually increases the odds for other cities to to compete for that special grant. And for the city of Hawthorne, it could mean an additional grant of up to $700,000 to $900,000 for this special PIP grant. It's a grant that's based upon the size of your city, the population demographics. And then there's also a special enhancement to that. So it's about $700,000 to $900,000 for this special PIP grant. The benefits is financial. The disadvantage or the cons, I really can't see any cons to applying for this grant. What we've done so far is prepare a draft application, which has been publicized on the website for 30 plus days, I think about 32 or 3. And there still needs to be a resolution adopted by the City Council that is to accompany this grant, which would be, depending upon what happens tonight, may be the next step moving forward. Should that actually happen, then the formal grant is submitted to HCD. They have then 60 days to review it and for comments. And there might be some minor tweaks or revisions. I hope there isn't that many because I've been in conversation with HCD up until we had the public draft posted on the website. I don't have anything else to add, but I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
May I, before we go to the questions, I'd like to just explain from the city's perspective why we decided to go for this. There's a couple of reasons. The city relies on grants from the state. We apply for a lot of grants, and Public Works is very good at getting them. The rest of us, not so much yet. But this, getting extra points on state grants is a really big deal because these aren't loans, these are grants. And the city's financial situation is great right now, but it's not going to be forever. So grants are going to become increasingly important. So any competitive edge we can have, we want to get. The other thing is when Mr. Wong brought this to my attention, we were kind of going over some of the things that cities are doing, and I was like, we already do that. We already do that. So for example, a lot of cities were requiring conditional use permit to build an apartment or a condo. We haven't done that for ages. I mean, decades. So we get free points for that. So a lot of the things were already being done anyway. And then when we did our housing element, there are certain requirements that we had to adopt, and we already adopted them. So we're getting points for those too. And then I have an obligation to remove barriers to housing. So just the few things that are left are really quite minor policy changes, but it doesn't really fundamentally change anything. So I didn't see any reason not to pursue this, because if it gives us an advantage in grants and then it makes us eligible for this exclusive grant, and we're already doing most of the stuff anyway, we should be applying for this. So I just wanted to explain that from the city's perspective, especially for people out in the public who are wondering why on earth we would want to encourage more housing. Well, that's the reason. We're not doing as much as other cities to get a good advantage.
Okay, thank you. Any questions here?
For this grant, what types of housing are we required to build?
If I can give an example, we're building in partnership with an affordable housing developer a like 93-unit affordable housing project on Cordery Avenue near Rosecrans. A lot of that is being funded by grants, and if we're partnering with this developer, and they will benefit from our score to get the grants to pay for this project. So this is on city property. This is just one example. This is something that's already underway, but we're scrambling right now to figure out how to pay for everything. As Mr. Wong mentioned, there's also parks, infrastructure, sewer lines, all kinds of things that if they're related to housing developments, we can get grants for this and save everybody a lot of money. So it's not that there's a direct requirement to build housing in most of these cases. This would be when you already have a project and you want to fund it.
So when you say housing, is it for rent or
can
both? Can be ownership as well?
Either one. Our city has never made much of a distinction between the two because we can't control the markets, and on any given year, you may say we only want to see, you know, ownership, but nobody's going to build that because of the situation with the market. So, you know, we don't make that distinction. We have never made that distinction other than to require the maps that a condo requires. So that's it's up to the developer and it's up to the market. We control the parameters, but whether it's going to be ownership or rental is really not something, because, you know, if we insist that somebody's going to build ownership and then it sits there vacant for 3 or 4 years until the market changes, nobody benefits from that.
So basically, this is basically an incentive for the developers. I mean, I can see it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's sewage, can do something with sidewalks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what more infrastructure? Because we're not a West Hollywood, and we're not a Long Beach, and we're not a Los Angeles. We're a 6.2 radius.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so what type of infrastructure, when you say that, what else do we get besides the normal sewage, sidewalks? I mean, besides the housing, for the developers, for the constituents, the residents, and all that other stuff. I mean, what other infrastructure do you see?
You have to make the strong connection between the infrastructure that's being requested to the housing project. And the housing project can be for rent or for ownership, could be for market rate or affordable. It just has to be housing. And it could be for a mixed-use development, so long as the project's 2/3 housing as far as the square footage. So it's quite generous in the type of applications that it could be used for. Could be help funding programs as well as projects. Mm-hmm. So if you have a specific project that's being discussed and it's a matter of financial analysis and there seems to be a gap, this could be something that could be very helpful in such a situation, and then derive some community benefits as well.
Okay.
If I can give another example, the city has acquired a property on Rosecrans Avenue near Chadron. And
Near what?
Chadron.
Chadwin?
Chadron. I don't
Chadron.
know how it's pronounced by the locals, but
Okay.
it's spelled Chadron.
Okay.
And we will be looking at some type of development that'll be a mixed-use project. It'll have a lot of different components, but there will be some housing there because that's just necessary to make the project affordable to build. But we'll be looking for grants for that. And there's also a strong desire to build more open space. So there will probably be a park that will be open to the public that the city will build on that property. We would be looking for grants to do that. And as a matter of fact, because there's housing, there's a clear connection to the park. I mean, they would be adjacent to each other, and it would be, you know, beneficial. So, but we would also make it open to the public. So there's a lot of creative ways we can use this money rather than just funding construction of houses.
Now, since we're a 6.2 radius, and you did mention that you have West Hollywood, Long Beach, Los Angeles. They're way bigger than Hawthorne. What other cities in the South Bay has a designation of our size, 6.2 radius? Is there anything right now of existence with that designation in the South Bay? Because I can just compare South Bay to South Bay versus a
Yes. Yeah.
Los Angeles or West Hollywood or Long Beach, because we're not either of those.
I don't recollect a city in the South Bay that is currently a pro-housing designated city.
Okay. The next question is now, say that the city, say they move forward with this designation. Can the designation be removed after it's designated? Is it complicated to do just in case, say, you know what, things aren't panning out the way we envisioned it, can we back out of that type of designation once it's put on?
You know, that's an interesting question. I haven't looked at it from that angle, but I suppose if the city wish to exit the program, it can. Now, I do, and I say that with a caveat, and there's not a direct answer to this perhaps, but I do know that once the designation is awarded, it's monitored on an annual basis by HCD as to compliance.
And HCD is
Housing and Community Development, does
Okay.
California state. So in their monitoring, if they find non-compliance to one of the provisions, maybe there's one, for example, is no net loss. If, for example, you change the zoning and you downzoned a parcel, but you didn't upzone somewhere else to make up for to compensate for the loss, so it's neutral. That would be a non-compliance, and they would come back and they would say, City of Hawthorne, we noticed you have a net loss. How do you plan to rectify that? You would then have so many days to respond and then develop a strategy to address the net loss issue. And if you cannot resolve it, then the state could take it away. So if you work backwards, I guess one way to get out of it would be to do something that would cause non-compliance.
So that'll be the benefit of having
If we did
a
that,
pro-housing designation. Okay, so I'm gonna look at it backwards. I like to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look at this backwards.
Yeah.
If we have a designation, we have our ordinances written and so forth, does the designation overrule some of the ordinances that we have as the city?
no, you see, the designation is just, there's no requirement or mandate to do anything with it. We use it to get higher points on grants. And when we're talking about non-compliance, there's already a law that says that if you downzone someplace, you have to upzone somewhere else. And if, regardless of whether we have that designation or not, if we do that and don't upzone somewhere, the state's coming after us. They're watching everybody. So we don't do that. That's the law. So there's really no compulsion to do anything with the grant. So if you don't want to do anything with it, you can just sit on the designation and don't advertise it, and nobody would know. It only really comes into play whenever you're applying for grants.
There's no
obligations.
There's no obligation. There's no requirement.
Well, there is only what we've promised to do, but that's not to build anything. That's to remove barriers. So, for example, if I promised that I'm going to make all multifamily residential subject to objective design standards as opposed to design review, I have to follow through on that, and I got 2 years to do it. So, yeah, the things that we promised we're expected to do. If we fail to do that, they'll yank it away from us. But there's no additional units that need to be built or anything of that nature.
So there's no other requirements
Only
under
what we
state law that doesn't add anything else we have to do. It's the same. It's just how projects can get funded because of a score we have.
Yeah, and it has no impact on the city's regulations on how we deal with design, how we deal with all the development standards. All of that still applies. Nothing's changed.
Yeah. So it's not like a charter city situation.
Nope.
Got it. Okay. I have no other questions.
Yeah, in my mind, I have a whole bunch of pros and cons and just not enough information, but I'm hearing you. And I like housing and stuff like that, I'm going that direction, but I'm not really, I guess I need more information. But that's it for me. Okay. Any other questions? That's it?
Is it?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Wong.
Okay, we're moving on to the consent calendar now. We have one item on today's consent calendar. And I'm sorry, I'm reading the approval of a minor modification to approve plans for a new hotel. So this was a hotel that was approved a couple of years ago, and then it was modified and it was approved again. But this time they've come back and they have a brand, which I believe was shown on one of the sets of plans. I forgot which one it is though. A Hyatt Place. Hyatt Place looked at the plans and said, we want to make a few changes. We want you to make a few changes before you build it for us. That's what he said to the developer. So the changes that are being proposed are as follows. The hotel was approved for 104 rooms. They're going to build 100 rooms. So it's a less intensification. The first floor had certain amenities such as a fitness center and a little shopping thing or whatever. And the Hyatt Place people would rather have more office space and a bigger lounge. I mean, like a bigger lobby, really. So that's on the interior. That's really not of our concern, but I'm telling you all the changes that we've noticed here. The original plan was to allow for a rooftop bar, and the Hyatt Place doesn't do rooftop bars, so they're just going to have a roof. The colors and the materials have changed, and that's why this is, that's the biggest reason why this is here. Because one of the applications that granted this approval was a design review. So we have to look at the design and say, is the new design acceptable? The building is hardly changed. The rooftop bar is obviously missing. So the parapet for the elevator shaft or whatever is smaller. But the colors and the materials have changed a lot. I think they're trying to be more contemporary in style with the Hyatt Place brand. But that's where you guys come in. If you agree that this is acceptable or not, then we'll talk about that. And then the last change is the side yard is kind of a zigzag, and a portion of it that is facing only their other property, which is I forgot which hotel it was, but there's another hotel that they own that's actually on the back of this one, or on the side of this one. They're moving the
Hampton Inn. It's a Hampton Inn.
Yeah, it might be the Hampton Inn. But they're moving the first floor where the parking is 6 feet to the west, but it doesn't occur in a place that anybody who's not actually in the property would be able to see it. Does that make sense? Because the side yard goes a certain way, then it zigs one way, then it goes back straight again. It's just this part that's parallel to the front property line, so the change will be hidden by the building itself. So based on that, that's the only concern for the conditional use permit. We evaluated it and came to the conclusion that this change in the building footprint would have no significant or even insignificant effect on the community. The only change that might have that effect would be the colors and the materials. So that's why it was determined to be a minor modification, and the only reason that it's brought here is because the design review approval says that changes have to be brought to the Planning Commission. Now we have a little bit more flexibility in more contemporary approvals, but that's the language that was in this one back when it was approved, so we're bringing it here.
Question?
Okay. Now, this item, are we right now,
Well, you pull it off of the consent calendar if you want to talk about it.
okay, but we're going to do the oral communication, I guess, with them first, or just pull it out and we discuss it?
It's just
I would like to pull it out.
Okay.
Are you, yeah.
Yeah,
Pull
well,
both of
we
the items
we can do that on consent. I mean, if there's at least one other person that agrees, we're good.
I'm sorry, are you saying that to pull it off consent and make it a general administration item?
Well, you have two things. You can discuss it amongst yourselves, but if you want to have a public hearing, we'll schedule it for next time.
What, just for my own edification, what is the typical protocol for what triggers a public hearing? Is this so minor that it wouldn't typically trigger a public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is so minor that it would not normally, but because the language that was written into the conditions of approval said that it goes back to the Planning Commission, that is an option. My staff report recommends not having a public hearing because the change is not visible to the public except for the color, and you guys are more than well equipped to deal with color changes. But it's your decision.
Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point.
I would like that. I would like a discussion with you guys. I'll let you talk first. What was on your mind?
No, oh, sorry. I thought you were looking at me.
So I thought that it was so minor that it wouldn't need a public hearing. A public hearing, I would imagine, would be for the original project being approved, where there would be, you know, an abundance of concerns, potential concerns based on the height of the building, people's views, you know, traffic in the area being affected, parking in the area, and so forth. A color change seems so minor that I think that's just something I would prefer to just vote on as a consent item rather than have a separate hearing for that.
And what are your thoughts?
I agree with that. I think that if it was adding a rooftop bar versus taking one away, I would say a public hearing, but since they're removing it, that's better for the surrounding areas, in my opinion.
But I would like to advocate for the future that all new hotels are required to have
They
a
already are.
rooftop bar.
They already are. And this one's had 2 public hearings already.
No, I was, you missed my joke. My
They
joke,
have
I
a
was saying
rooftop bar?
that we require rooftop bars in the future.
Oh,
so-
yeah. No, I agree, but it does conflict with the solar panel requirement, but we'll work it in.
Well, I'm looking at a lot of different things on this one. And I remember this one. It was about the extension. Because when I was reading the report, it just didn't.
I think that was the other.
It
Was the other one.
That was the other hotel that, the one that was referenced by Ms. Walker. Are you thinking of that one where?
No, like on July 3rd, 2024, I was talking about the
Oh,
same
okay.
address.
Okay, sorry.
There was one behind it.
My concern is this, and either there was an error here, I think, because I look at every little sentence. Maybe I'm just one of those people who like to read everything. It says on July 3rd, 2024, we had a discussion about the extension because we had a discussion basically saying he had 3 years to start building, and then he was going to get a year extension. That was the conversation that was had on July 3rd, 2024. It was 1 year extension. We're in January 2026. I'm really concerned about the time limits, and I'm actually concerned about the city's liability. So
There's no liability, and the reason why this is not triggering a time issue is because they did submit for building permits in time. Subsequent to getting the building permits, which was to build it as it was approved, then they made the contract with Hyatt Place and want these changes. So they are in compliance with that time limit because the time limit is you have to act on your entitlement, and one way to act on it is to pull a building permit or get it into plan check. So they did that.
So it's already so it commenced construction?
No.
What is the definition of commenced, if I may ask?
No.
In your talks, and I'm hearing you, but just hear me out just for a second, please. So on July 3rd, 2024, 1 year from that day is July 3rd or whatever it is, 2025. That's 5 months after the extension. My concern here is I'm not understanding the extension. You said that if it's not, I'm just trying to figure out the timestamp on here.
Yeah, okay, so
And-
if you
and
turn
that's
to the
my
last
major
two
extension. That's my
pages of
concern.
the report, there's a plan check from my department, and it's dated June 6th of 2025. So that's within the 1 year extension. This is a response to their submitting the plans to the building department for a plan check. And these items that were changed were called out on there. And then they consulted with me shortly after that, and I said, well, we're going to have to take this to the Planning Commission because your conditions of approval say so. Normally, I would have just said this is a minor change, basically the color and the part that nobody can see. But that's why it's here, and these things do take a little bit of time to get together and everything.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get the times right because like I said,
Absolutely.
I have to protect the city.
Yeah.
That's my major concern. So that was signed June 6, 2025. You guys had some request here,
Right,
right?
yes.
And then nothing was done. So
Well-
my question, go ahead.
It's well within the normal time frame of these kind of things. When you get plan check corrections, you don't see them back in a month. That just doesn't happen. So they're definitely not out of compliance with any expectations because submitting for the plan check was the deadline ender.
The deadline.
ender. So the deadline no longer applied because they met their requirement by submitting for a building permit.
So you're telling me they don't have to commit construction at all?
Well, we don't dictate when they start construction because there's a lot of factors that we have no control over, like the cost of materials, the cost of labor, and so forth. But permits do expire. This one's not expired, though.
Well, that's the question. So long as we don't have a liability, because what happens if this is not done correctly, the city's going to be in liability.
Well, no.
So you're telling me
I don't agree with that.
I'm sorry?
I don't agree with that. They have an approved entitlement that they can fall back on, which is the plan that was approved by the Planning Commission twice. Well, the second version of it. So there's no liability.
Okay.
They came back and they're making these minor changes, and they're just asking for your blessing on them. But that doesn't give them any kind of leeway to change anything else. Everything else stands. All the conditions of approval are still the same.
Okay. And then when you say minor,
Yeah.
you're telling me
Well,
it's minor? Because I look at these, okay, let's deal with one thing at a time.
yeah.
Just to get the timestamp, because that's the worry that I have right now. So the timestamp is what I'm worried. So you're saying that we don't have a problem with the expiration date. You're saying that according to the city of Hawthorne and their rules and regulations, they commence construction, whatever that means.
No,
commenced.
plan check.
Yes.
That's a
So-
preliminary to the construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everything is on. So we're on top of that. Is
Yeah,
what
we're
I'm
not
asking.
bending any rules. We're not making any exceptions.
Okay.
Everything is being done strictly according to what the conditions of approval and what the municipal code says here.
Okay.
So you said that the approval was July 3rd of 2024 for a one-year extension, so that would be July of 2025. And
Okay.
yet they went into plan check sometime before June 6th, and they got their corrections, which usually take about a week or two.
Okay.
So they're under the deadline.
Okay, so long as they meet that criteria according to the city of Hawthorne, I'm
Yeah.
okay with the timestamp.
If
as
they
well.
had
So I
f-
just want to make sure that
if-
we have that covered.
Yes, if they had
Okay.
failed to get their plans in by the 3rd of July, then yeah, it would have expired.
Okay, and my concern was, I just didn't want somebody else in the outside thinking that, oh, we're just giving waivers to everybody, and then they don't have to renew their whole permit again. Because I want to make sure that they don't override the planning commissioner or the previous planning commissioners, and also you guys.
Well, that's why we're here, because they can't override the approvals without getting a proper authorization.
Okay.
And given that the condition of approval said the planning commission has to make the decision, that's why we're here.
Correct. Okay. What's my next question? Okay, now the next question I have here is, and this is just my opinion, when you say minor, I don't look at that as minor.
Which aspect are you talking
Hotel
about?
was, okay, approved 104 room, okay, it was 104 rooms, now it's
100.
100, that's minor to me. First floor fitness center, amenities, blah, 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 blah. Rooftop bar was removed from plans. I would have loved to have a rooftop,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to see about what we can bring to the city.
I
want, that
agree.
business aspect, we want to attract people from other cities and stuff.
Yeah, I know. But we don't have any requirements for a rooftop
Yeah.
bar, so,
That's-
I think removing things from a plan it makes it minor. Adding things would not be minor.
Okay, color, materials of exterior, those are just what it is. To me, that's minor. Podium over the ground floor parking is shifting 6 feet to the west. That's what I don't consider that minor at all.
Well, the reason I say that it's minor is because, as I explained, when you're in the front of the building or in the back of the building, you can't even see this part of the building because of the zigzag.
And you don't even have that listed right there.
No, it's in the
No, I know where it's at.
Yeah,
I
I
have
know.
it here.
I know.
But I just,
So the property line goes to the middle of the property, then it makes a 90-degree turn, and then it makes another 90-degree turn to continue in the same general direction it started. So that little part in the middle, which is parallel to the front property line,
is that Birch?
yes.
Acacia?
Well, it's between Acacia and Birch. It's right in the middle between them. So it's in the middle of the block, and in both cases, it's blocked in its view by another building, and then this building will block its own view.
Okay, so then I'm looking at so when I'm looking at this diagram, you're saying that it's literally that 6 feet is between the buildings?
Yeah, and
It's not on Arcasia side?
and it's not the frontage on Acacia, and it's not the frontage on Birch. From, those two haven't changed at all. So the building will still be the same distance from those streets. And then the side setback that you can see from those streets, looking down the side of the building, that doesn't change either. It's just where it turns.
Okay.
They're just closing the gap there. Now, this is still subject to fire department approval, so it may change back, I don't know. But that's the extent of the change.
Okay, so it doesn't, I kind of saw the,
Oh, I want to add one more thing, if you don't mind.
yes,
This only applies to the ground floor parking. When the upper floors where the rooms are, they go back to the original setback.
is that 7 feet?
I don't remember.
Because
right
I
now.
keep on seeing 5 feet here.
I think
and
it's 5 feet.
Wasn't it originally 7 feet?
No, it was 5.
What was the CUP that was made from the other planning commissioners?
I don't think
Do
it
we
addressed
even
that
have that?
because, well, yes, we do. I included it in the set.
The first and the second floor, if I'm not mistaken, was said to have or condition 7 feet setback, and that was on the west side. Is that still applicable to the first and second floor?
Yeah.
So
And they're-
that
and
stays.
they haven't changed those.
Okay, that's what, okay,
Yeah.
so I'm looking, okay. Because the maps that I see sometimes, I can't
I know.
zoom in and, okay.
This is a change that's only occurring on the podium,
Yep.
which is holding up the building and has the parking underneath it. So
Okay.
they're just moving the small portion of the podium toward the middle of the property where nobody can see it. But the building itself stays where it was supposed to be.
Okay. I have the map right here. Can
Yeah.
someone point out to me exactly that setback, and then then I can put this to rest, actually? Okay. Where's that 6 feet? Where is it at? Oh, okay, I'm thinking it was here.
And there's a building.
Okay, thank you for that. So it is where okay. Okay, perfect. Just one more question. Is there a residence? Well, I guess it really doesn't matter. That wouldn't even matter if
There-
residents
there-
are even
there are
there. It's
none.
not, okay.
There is a residential
It wouldn't even matter though,
building,
because
but
it's
it's
not
also
gonna,
owned.
they're not gonna see it, so I see.
And
I
it's
see
owned by
that
the
now.
same people, and they use it as an office, so,
Right.
it really
Okay.
it really has no visual impact on the neighbors.
Okay. Well, now that you pointed out which way it was going, I'm actually content with that. My only concerns was, like I said, the term limit. Were we setting precedents for the next, if someone wants to come and try to do another CUP, that was my concern, and also the 6 feet. So, yeah, I guess it is minor.
So I would say, though, that if somebody came in and wanted to change the color of a building and the materials from something that was already approved in a design review, I would still bring it to you guys. I wouldn't make that call myself.
Okay. All right. So I guess he proved me wrong today. It is minor. And, okay, so I guess we don't have to do much to it.
All I ask is that you just have a vote to agree to approve this.
I'll motion.
Before we do that, I do want to hear somebody, but is that if I don't pull it, if I do an oral communication,
Well,
does that
that's-
mean that we're going to have to open this up again?
That means
I
we'll
just-
have to reschedule it and have a public hearing.
Yeah.
That's why I said whenever Ms. Walker was at the microphone, that was the appropriate time to discuss it.
Okay.
And I hope that we've addressed her concern, that this one's not like the other one, because I'm familiar with what happened with the other one. The
Okay.
director had said it was major, and
Okay.
then the city council overruled.
Yes.
This is, I'm declaring is minor, so it's kind of the opposite problem.
Okay.
And,
No.
and all I ask is that you agree.
Oh, yeah, now that you pointed out where that 6 feet was coming from, that was my concern. So I'm very much satisfied. It's minor. I don't think we need to discuss it further. So, yeah, I guess we can,
I just need a motion and a second, and we'll take a vote.
Motion.
Second?
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, that's a vice chairperson now, right? Yes.
Vice Chair,
No
Chair.
You're vice chair.
I am.
Okay. Commissioner Nelman.
Yes.
Okay, vice chairperson Houston
Weird. Yes.
and chairperson Collins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me see here.
All right,
Okay, continued public hearings?
we have none. We have no new ones, no continued ones. We don't have anything right now. Things are a little slow.
Nothing administrative?
We don't have anything. we will have a couple things in the future. There's a couple of, I think there's a couple conditional use permits that we have that we'll be bringing to you. And are there any other colors or no? I think
Design review, that's
Design
part
review.
of the conditional use permit.
we don't know when they're going to be scheduled yet, so I didn't put them on here, but within the next 2 months.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out something here. I didn't see place on future agenda. No, I don't need to put anything there. Okay, commissioner reports.
I have nothing to report.
Nothing?
I just
For yourself?
just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. And again, once again, thank you to the community members that do come out and take their time to share their thoughts and what the community is feeling with us for us to take into consideration when we're making decisions for the city. So thank you.
Okay. And for myself, I do ask a lot of questions and concerns when I see somebody out there, like Ms. Walker, Mr. Sanchez, or any constituents that are out there. I do listen, or I try to, hear your concerns and try to bring them up as much as possible and stuff. So I greatly appreciate you guys coming up. Continue doing so if you have any concerns with the city. That's your right. Please use it and speak out when you need to. Besides that, thank you for selecting me as the chair. Greatly appreciate it. Of course, we have a wonderful staff. You guys are great. Just want to remind you guys that without you, it's like, whoa. So thank you for handling our city and representing it. And that will be it for now. And we will adjourn the meeting to the next regular meeting on February 4th, 2026. And it is now 7:28 p.m.